beautiful, yeah? What's a better symbol to the Chinese people than the Great Wall? But can it also represent the Olympic spirit? Welcome to a special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin, coming to you from the Simatai Great Wall, 120 kilometers north of Beijing. As Beijing 2022 kicks off, let me continue to bring you my exclusive interviews with an International Winter Sports Federation, head of a foreign delegation to the Beijing Paralympic Games, and some volunteers. But first, I would like you to meet my special guest today, Ian Gooderam, senior editor and columnist with China Daily. Hello, Ian.
Hello, so great to see you.
Nice to see you too. How does it feel to be standing on the Great Wall here?
Well, it's cold and it's windy, but that's to be expected at this time of year and when we're up this high. But besides that, even with the cold and the wind, it's a very nice place to be. Beijing had its first snow of the year a couple days ago, and you can see on the slopes there's still some of the powder left there, even though it's warmer now. Some of the water's frozen in the river there. I think it's a really good backdrop as we think about the Winter Olympics.
Of course, and it's beautiful, I must say. Looking at the snow and the slopes, it actually reminds me of a sport that combines cross-country skiing and shooting. That is biathlon. I talked to the Secretary General of the International Biathlon Union the other day. Let's hear what he had to say about his expectations for the Beijing Winter Olympic Games. Mr. Carson, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, these have been difficult times. It may be actually the first time for many biathletes to visit China and to compete in the second Olympic Games against the backdrop of the pandemic. So how much, give us a little bit more, how much or what specifically are you or the athletes looking forward to when you come in Beijing? And do you or the athletes have any concerns also specifically?
Now, I think the highlight for us and for all athletes is everything what's going on in the sport, the field of play, to perform, and of course to chase the Olympic gold medal. And I think that the sad thing is when we will come now to China is that it will be a challenge for us to see the country, to see Beijing, to meet the people, the culture, but that's priorities we need to do, and with a close loop and a very tight management to secure both the Chinese population and the athletes. I think everyone understands the measurements needed to be able to do this. So I would say the highlights will be what happens on the field of play, the performance of the athletes. And for many, it's important also to very much prepare yourself. How will the situation be? That it will be a bit different. You cannot go out and have a run wherever and so on. But I have to say, Bokok have done an amazing job, and I think all the needs for the athletes are prepared in a good way. So I think they will not be affected too much, except living or seeing the culture of China and meet the people of China. That will be difficult or impossible.
Right, Bokok is the organizing committee for the Winter Olympic Games. I'm sure your understanding of the situation will be much appreciated by the hosts. Now, some bright side of the story, for instance, China newly constructed venues to host some of these games which are new to the Chinese people. For instance, the National Biathlon Center is one of 3 venues that have been built especially for these games, and it will witness half of the medal events. So how do you feel about that?
Now, as I mentioned earlier, I had a pleasure to go there in September, and it's really an amazing venue. The Biathlon Center is really state of the art, and for us that's great that we know we will be able to have amazing Olympic Games here. But for us also as an international federation, we really hope that this will inspire also Chinese people to start to take up the sport of skiing and then biathlon, because that's what we very much want to do, to get people to do biathlon. And it's great to have the commitment in China to have 3 million people involved in winter sport.
I understand. I was personally a sports fan, not so much winter sports because I grew up in the south of China where we didn't see so much snow, although we were doing skating on man-made ice. But it is fascinating, this sport called biathlon. Tell us a little bit, what's so special about it? The combination of cross-country skiing with shooting. It feels like the complete opposite of right, concentration and steadiness and speed. Tell us a bit about the charm of the sport.
No, it is really a unique sport, I would say, a part of the endurance element when you do the cross-country skiing, and then this very technical, challenging, and also mentally very demanding part with the shooting. And both elements are really important. And with the setup we have with the competition, it's not over until everyone has finished, come to the finish line. And I think that's very exciting. It's very difficult to predict, to see that, okay, what will happen? It can happen a lot of things, but these special, unique elements, part of biathlon, is what I think make it very interesting for a lot of people, and we capture the interest from a lot of people, especially here in Europe, where we have a lot of people watching our World Cup and so on. So we can really engage a lot of people with our sport, which we are really happy for.
Right, as you mentioned, European athletes, especially Northern Europeans, have been very strong in this game traditionally, but elsewhere athletes are trying to catch up, and we know the Chinese rising star Meng Fanqi. She won the junior women 12.5-kilometer individual competition in 2019 after winning gold in the 2016 Winter Youth Olympic Games in single mixed relay. We also have other names such as Zhang Yan, which is up and running. So how do you look at the potential of Chinese biathletes?
Yeah, to work with high performance sport, to prepare to the Olympic Games, it takes time. And patience is always the challenge. But I would say you need to count from 8 to 12 years to really prepare enough athletes for the highest level. Chinese Biathlon Association is really on good track. They have done a lot of work and their athletes are really dedicated. And I really hope that we would see medals coming, maybe unfortunately in 2026 at Olympic Winter Games. I would be very impressed if we get some top 10 results from the Chinese biathletes now. I think that's an amazing effort from them. So they will need time. They are really doing an amazing job. They're on the right track, but I think they need to have some more patience and the results will come.
Right. China, maybe because, you know, how much they want to invest in the games and how eagerly they want to perform in this game. China hired a golden couple, probably you heard about it, to coach Team China, Norwegian Ole Einar Bjørndalen, if I pronounce it correctly, known as the King of Biathlon. He has won the highest number of medals, I understand, in the world, and his wife, Daria Donkrapcheva, who also has a total of 6 Olympic medals. How do you think of the investment that China is putting in this sport to promote it?
No, I think they've done everything great, building venues, ensure it's a legacy in China that the sport can continue to be done, especially in the Biathlon Center in Zhangjiakou, and bringing in Ole Einar and his wife. It's you have the know-how, so everything has been done right. And for me, the main message is that to develop top performance athletes, you need time. It will not go overnight, and I think that's why you should put a bit the 2026 on the horizon. But everything is done in the best possible way. They have all the athletes have the support. They are well prepared. So it will be very interesting in February to see the performance of the Chinese athletes.
Winter sports in general have gained popularity in China thanks to the Winter Olympics. We are here starting to see babies on snow and ice as well, which was something totally new. So what is your assessment of the opportunities for biathlon in China in the coming 5 years? And is the IBU doing anything with your local counterparts to promote the sports?
Yeah, I think it's very, should say, for all international federations, the legacy, the investments, the goal to really bring people to winter sport, that's what we love with Olympic Games in Beijing, because to get the people the experience to glide on snow or on ice and to experience winter sport is something we love. And of course, we as an international federation have a responsibility to continue to support with know-how, with equipment, and we have a great dialogue, I would say, with all the representatives in Chinese Biathlon Association and their stakeholders to really ensure that we continue to work to get people in China involved in biathlon. So I only see opportunities in this, and for me very much it's been a great journey towards the Olympic Games. But I think the big part starts with the legacy, and that's where we are really interested to be involved and support and help to ensure we have a lot of biathletes in China.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nicholas Carlson, Secretary General of the International Biathlon Union, joining us from Sweden. That was Nicholas Carlson, Secretary General of the IBU. As he pointed out, sports is all about perseverance and patience as well. As we stand on the Great Wall, Ian, I think that's fitting as well to the theme, because the Great Wall basically is built together brick by people of generations in China's history. How do you compare the spirit of the Great Wall and the Olympic spirit? Do you think maybe the Great Wall can be another mascot of the Olympic Games?
Well, I think certainly it symbolizes, in the sense of the Olympics being this kind of collective effort by countries and nations and regions to come together to put on this kind of exhibition of athleticism and ability. So, as you said, much in the same way that the Great Wall is built brick by brick, you know, countries are built person by person, right? One brick is not particularly remarkable, but with however many bricks, I couldn't tell you offhand how many are in the Great Wall coming together for one structure, you have something that is truly an incredible feat. And that's the same for when we put on a big athletic event like this that takes a lot of moving parts working together in tandem, and everything going right, and so many countless people being responsible for making it happen.
Absolutely. The kind of preparation that has been going in, not just to the Beijing Winter Olympic Games, but to the Paralympic Games as well, which do not get enough attention. And I think it's especially inspiring every time when we hear a story of a Paralympic athlete, that the kind of courage, the kind of perseverance and effort they have to put in to overcome additional limitations. That's why I had the privilege to talk to the chef de mission of the New Zealand delegation to the Beijing Paralympic Winter Games, Jane Stevens, and she was telling me the kind of preparations they have been doing. Let's take a look. Stevens, thank you very much for joining us. Now, the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic Games open on February the 4th. As the Games will officially kick off, how do you feel as a Paralympic delegation chef de mission?
Well, firstly, ni hao, everybody, and it's a great pleasure to be speaking to you today. We're obviously extremely excited for everybody, and for everybody in China, and of course our New Zealand delegation who have already arrived, or starting to arrive for the Olympics. And the momentum and the excitement is building. It is, you know, this is our pinnacle event that we strive for every 4 years, and everyone is very, very excited to see what will happen.
You said the Beijing 2022 Winter Paralympics will be unlike any we've had before. Why is that? Have you been tailoring your preparation specifically for these events?
Specifically, I think we've focused a lot on our training environments being as similar as possible to what we expect when we come into the resort, into Yanqing. So we've worked a lot on a lot of different mountains in New Zealand, looking at different conditions and trying to mimic the slopes that we know the athletes will be skiing on, and the gradients, and are doing the same when the athletes are in competition in Europe. We have our simple focus, and our simple goal is to focus on getting the athletes to the start line and enjoying all that hard work that they've put in over the last 4 years, and in some of the athletes' cases, 20 years.
Sure. You mentioned some of the team members. I understand that one of them, Aaron Evan, actually suffered a fractured hip in Pyeongchang 2018. So during the final stages of the training, how is everything this time?
All our athletes are actually they're doing really well, and our sport is, you know, it's part of our sport that injuries do happen because it is a very fast sport, if you like. So accidents do happen, and people do acquire injuries, and we obviously work to mitigate that as best we possibly can, but we can't all the times. But at the moment, our athletes are in wonderful form, and are really much looking forward to it. And I think the biggest take from us with Aaron's injury, it was prior to going into Pyeongchang, was the fact that he still came back from that and worked incredibly hard, and now has the honour of representing his country at a games such as I know that China is going to put on. It will be a phenomenal first experience for him.
The Paralympic Games are always a great source of inspiration, not just for sports fans, but also, you know, for ordinary people looking at people with disadvantages, trying their very best to excel, to get ahead, and to you know, realize their dreams. So share with us some of the examples or stories that with the New Zealand team, for instance, and how they can be inspiring to people here in China or around the world.
I think what we see with our athletes, once they're giving an opportunity to, one, participate, and then two, to really follow their dreams and be the best that they can, is what everybody in the world strives to do. And I think what our athletes do is phenomenal, because they work twice as hard. They work they are phenomenal in what they do, and they overcome a huge amount of what people will perceive massive barriers, but they will work through that, and all they're trying to do is be the very best that they can be. And I think that's the most inspiring thing, is for me, watching an athlete's journey from beginner all the way through to an elite Paralympian, and watching the confidence and the absolute joy that they have from sport, and then they carry on into the skills that they learn from the commitment that they have to put into sport, takes them forward into life after sport, into fantastic jobs and inspiring roles beyond the sport as well. So the opportunities that are given to the athletes, it's phenomenal to see them succeed.
Some Chinese para-alpine skiers are also attracting global attention. So as the Games will start in a few weeks' time, would you like to comment on some medal favorites according to your knowledge?
Well, I understand. I know who the Chinese athletes are that you're talking about, and you know, for us, it's incredibly exciting to see athletes that will hopefully, you know, perform in their home country. I mean, that would be a dream, to have a Paralympics in your home country and to succeed and walk away as a medalist. And I've been very fortunate to, I have met some of these Chinese athletes down in New Zealand when we could all travel freely about 3 or 4 years ago on some races that we had down here. And I tell you, it's been amazing to watch the progression of those athletes and just see how well they've done in our sport in a relatively short time. And I honestly wish them all the success, and it's only great for the sport. It's great for the sport to see more people coming in and succeeding like this. They are true. It's a true honour to see them come through and do so well. It's very exciting.
Many thanks to Ms. Jane Stevens, Chef de Mission of the New Zealand Paralympic Games delegation, and I wish you a wonderful stay and experience during the Paralympic Games here in Beijing.
Thank you very much, everyone, and I wish China all the best as well, and we are very much looking forward to arriving. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Jane Stevens, Chef de Mission of the New Zealand delegation to the Beijing Paralympic Games. Ian, you know, listening to her talk, I had the impression that it would have been a great pity had some of these athletes been deprived of the opportunity to participate in the Paralympic Games if these noises about so-called boycott picked up momentum, really. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's been some commentary in countries like the U.S. that were really leading the charge in trying to create this anti-Olympics fervor. Thinking about the boycotts in 1980 that were done, thinking about the athletes that was their chance, right? Because the way a lot of these sports work, you know, I'm no authority on this, but I know for a fact that some of these sports, you know, there's a very limited window of time in which you can compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
And once that window has passed, you know, that was your time and it's gone. And so there were many people that had that opportunity at that moment that weren't able to really achieve their full potential.
Yeah, it would have been a pity of a lifetime. And now that the games are on, so we're really happy that these athletes really have these opportunity. However, when we were approaching the games, I was also observing how international media were covering the upcoming games. And one thing which caught my attention was the kind of language, you know, almost a bit of a scare tactic being used, or, you know, talking about, for instance, Omicron cases spreading all over China, although the absolute number were extremely small compared to, you know, the numbers we were seeing abroad. So did you also picked up a similar phenomenon?
Well,
what do you think of it?
Of course, how can I not? I mean, it was everywhere for a little while. Just like last summer, whenever Delta was picking up, and there was, I believe the first outbreak in the Chinese mainland that was locally transmitted was the Guangzhou Delta outbreak, and there were all these predictions of this is inevitably going to change China's approach, and it's going to cause a total, it's going to invalidate China's methods of pandemic control, right? And the same thing was being said about Omicron when it first appeared, and whenever the first cases showed up, I believe in Tianjin, but as we're recording this now, it's in late January, and the case counts in Tianjin are in the low single digits, having been in the dozens. Again, the context is very important here, because an outbreak by Chinese standards is very different than an outbreak from other standards.
Yeah.
But that's the difference. And so we're seeing the approach work in the system of containment work for Omicron just as well as it worked for the other variants. So a lot of that was, I think, wishful thinking. People wanted to see China fail. They wanted to see China get proven wrong, and it didn't happen. So there's some disappointment, I think, in some circles.
But still, I noticed that great attention, precaution were made to make sure that even the limited number of possible cases were suppressed, let's say. That's why we had the closed loop arrangement, and a lot of people were sacrificing really a lot of their spare time, a lot of their personal freedom in order to make the games as safe as possible. And I talked to some volunteers, and I asked them how they are coping with going into this closed loop, which means they have to separate it from their families. They will not be able to go to school for a couple of months.
It's a tremendous sacrifice, and it's true. It's true, just as true now for the Olympics and for the anti-pandemic response as it was 2 years ago in Wuhan. You had tales of stories of great tragedy, but also stories of great inspiration, because you had this massive, again, a collective mobilization of people that were giving their time for nothing in return, and in fact at great risk to themselves, their personal lives and their health, and taking part in this great collective mission to make sure that people stayed safe and healthy. And that's exactly what's happening now.
And I understand we had over 1 million applications to be volunteers for the Beijing Paralympic Games, and 19,000 of them from various schools are participating. But I talked to 4 of them to hear their representative voices. Here's what it is. Wang Ziqi, Zhao Jessica Huiting, Temeliti Yulia, and Zhang Junying. The warmest welcome to all of you. If you have to stay in the closed loop, let's say, how long will it be?
Actually, going to be, for now, it's going to be from the 25th of January till the end of March.
Wow. So what are you going to do with your schoolwork and everything else?
Actually, Tsinghua is providing us with a lot of online classes. So we have even a special platform to ask some questions or apply our homework. So I'm actually not worried about my school at all. Tsinghua has done a lot for us. Yeah.
Ziqi, how are you going to cope?
I already had a time that I hasn't spent my Spring Festival with my family in 2018. Unfortunately, I even spent that Spring Festival Eve on the stadium at the venue, not gathering with other Chinese volunteers. So I probably would spend the Spring Festival this year with my fellow student again, with the other volunteers. I think it will be definitely a memorable time that I will call my parents again and say that I'm actually working for my country and working for people around the world. And they definitely will be proud of me again.
Yeah, and finally, Huiting, would you like to share with us your thoughts as well? Almost 3 months away from everything else, except your friends. Is it going to be a bit tough?
I'm actually more excited than nervous about spending my time in the closed loop. We were talking about bringing board games and workout equipment, and I'm already meeting a lot of new friends like Yulia I met on the team. So I'm really excited about spending a lot of community time together because we'll all be living in the same hotel. And as Yulia also mentioned, school has done a wonderful job of having a whole team for us to support our academics and also our mental health as well. And so I'm really happy about how everything is really well taken care of. And I'm really actually excited about entering the closed loop regulation.
Thank you so much for your commitment to help make this Olympic Games a great success and joyful experience for people around the world, and all the best wishes to you. With that, we come to the end of this special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin, coming to you from the Simatai Great Wall, north of Beijing. And many thanks to Ian Goodrum from China Daily for being with us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is ours. And we'd like to wish you a happy year of the Tiger and great Beijing Winter Olympic Games.